Resource allocation in India has historically been a contentious issue, often plagued by opacity and inefficiencies. To really understand the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2015 and its subsequent 2021 refinement, we must first deconstruct the fundamental problem of the pre-2015 era. Previously, natural resources were distributed based on a discretionary first come first serve or FCFS mechanism. सोचो जरा, imagine a scenario where valuable state assets are handed out largely based on administrative whim rather than economic merit. This created an environment ripe for crony capitalism and scandals. देखो, the 2015 Amendment Act marks a decisive paradigm shift, dismantling this opaque structure and replacing it with a transparent, auction-based regime. As visible in the visual anchor allocation regime shift, the transition moves from closed-door administrative files to an open, competitive e-auction system. This ensures that the true economic value of the mineral is captured by the state rather than being lost to arbitrage. समझ आया? Furthermore, we must analyze the concept of captive mines. Historically, if you were allocated a coal or iron ore mine, you were restricted to using that mineral solely for your own end-use plant, like a steel factory or power station. This created rigidities. Matlab, if your plant was shut down, the mineral lay unutilized. The 2021 amendment removed this distinction between captive and non-captive mines. Ab, as indicated in the post-2015-2021 section of the slide, captive miners are allowed to sell 50% of their annual production in the open market. Simple hai. This promotes the commercialization of mining, ensuring that excess supply enters the market to stabilize prices. Another critical reform is the composite license mechanism shown in the visual diagram seamless transition. In the past, an explorer had to get a reconnaissance permit, then apply separately for a prospecting license, and finally a mining lease, with bureaucratic friction at every step. The composite license or prospecting cum mining lease integrates these stages. It guarantees that if a private entity takes the risk to explore and find minerals, they automatically have the right to mine them. Bas, this removes investment uncertainty and encourages private exploration in the sector.
Moving deeper into the socio-economic implications of mining, we encounter the resource curse paradox. Regions richest in minerals are often populated by the poorest communities. The District Mineral Foundation, or DMF, is a statutory intervention designed to correct this imbalance. Established under the MMDR Act, the DMF functions as a non-profit trust with a specific mandate, benefit sharing. The core logic here is that the local community, which bears the negative externalities of mining, such as pollution and displacement, must have a direct stake in the profits, right? As illustrated in the DMF fund flow architecture visual, money flows from the mining lessee directly into the DMF trust. But wait, how is this fund capitalized? The law creates a differential payment structure based on when the lease was granted. Dekho, for old leases granted before the 2015 auction regime, the discretionary FCFS era, the miners have enjoyed windfall gains due to low costs. Hence, they must contribute a higher amount, 30% of the royalty, to the DMF. Conversely, for new leases allocated post-2015 via auction, the market has already extracted the premium value, so their contribution is set lower at 10% of the royalty. Make sense? This creates a continuous stream of capital directed towards local development. To ensure this capital is not squandered, the PM Khanij Kshetra Kalyan Yojana, or PMKKY, provides the utilization framework. Notice the PMKKY Fund Utilization Mandate chart. It strictly categorizes expenditure to prevent misuse. A significant 60% of the funds are locked for high-priority areas like drinking water, health, and education. This is non-negotiable because these sectors directly impact the Human Development Index, or HDI, of the affected tribal belts. The remaining 40% can be used for infrastructure like roads and irrigation. This is a targeted approach to ensure that minerals translate into welfare. The mandatory audit requirement adds a layer of accountability, ensuring that the fund does not become a parallel treasury without oversight, but remains a focused tool for social justice and environmental mitigation in mining districts.
To sustain a mining economy, one must first find the minerals. Simple hai, right? This brings us to the National Mineral Policy, or NMP 2019, which focuses heavily on the upstream sector, exploration. Why was a new policy needed to replace the 2008 framework? क्योंकि India's exploration expenditure was abysmally low compared to global standards. The NMP 2019 grants industry status to mining activities. Listen carefully. This is not just a label, it is a financial enabler that allows mining companies to access banking finance and loans more easily, which is crucial for a capital-intensive sector. The policy rests on pillars seen in the visual, NMP 2019 core pillars, including intergenerational equity, which dictates that we should not exhaust resources so rapidly that future generations are left with nothing. A critical technical concept here is the United Nations Framework Classification, or UNFC, for resources, visualized in the UNFC Exploration Stages funnel. Knowledge construction in geology happens in stages of increasing confidence. At the top of the funnel is G4, or reconnaissance, which involves broad surveys like aeromagnetic scans to identify potential zones. As we narrow down, we move to G3, or prospecting, using geochemical analysis. The most pivotal stage for policy is G2, or general exploration. Acha, at the G2 level, we have 3D modeling and enough data to estimate the shape, size, and grade of the ore body with reasonable confidence. The evidence of mineral contents rules dictate that for a mineral block to be auctioned, it must be explored at least up to the G2 level. Why is this restriction there? Socho. Because you cannot discover the true market price of an invisible asset. If the government auctions a block at the G3 or G4 level, the bidder does not know what lies beneath, leading to undervaluation or failed bids. However, to attract junior miners who specialize in early-stage risk, the policy introduces the Non-Exclusive Reconnaissance Permit, or NERP. This allows private players to undertake the risky G4 and G3 stages with the assurance that if they upgrade the resource to G2, they can trigger an auction and monetize their findings, thus fixing the broken exploration incentives. In the contemporary geopolitical landscape, minerals have transcended economics to become tools of national security. We are now dealing with critical minerals. A mineral is defined as critical based on two intersecting vectors: high economic importance for key industries like cobalt for batteries or lithium for EVs, and high supply risk due to geographical concentration. As the India Critical Mineral Diplomacy Map visual indicates, our import dependency for lithium and cobalt is near 100%. This vulnerability is dangerous because these minerals are the fuel of the net zero transition. Without them, our ambitions for renewable energy storage and electric mobility collapse. To mitigate this, India created KABIL, or Khanij Videsh India Limited, a joint venture of 3 PSUs, NALCO, HCL, and MECL. KABIL mandate is unique. Dekho, it is not a domestic miner but a diplomat miner. It is tasked with acquiring assets overseas, specifically in the lithium triangle of South America and Australia. By securing these assets at the source, we bypass the volatile open market. The visual map shows Kabil's engagement vectors stretching to Argentina and Australia, effectively physically securing the supply lines for Indian industry. Simultaneously, we must understand the concept of supply chain resilience shown in the supply chain loop visual. Reliance on a single nation, often China, for processing creates a choke point. India joining the US-led Mineral Security Partnership or MSP is a strategic move to diversify these chains. It is not enough to just mine the ore, one must also control the processing and refining capacity. Clear hai? The loop visual emphasizes that strategic autonomy is achieved only when we close the circle from source diversification to processing, then manufacturing, and finally recycling or urban mining. Recycling is particularly vital for critical minerals because the extraction load on the earth can be reduced if we efficiently recover metals from e-waste, turning waste back into supply. Coal remains the baseload of India's energy security. Yet, it requires urgent modernization to balance economic needs with environmental commitments. The reforms in the coal sector represent a drastic departure from the socialist era monopoly. Previously, Coal India Limited or CIL was the sole arbiter of production, leading to inefficiencies and shortages. The coal paradigm shift table visually contrasts the pre-2020 and post-2020 eras. The most significant structural change is the allowance of 100% FDI under the automatic route for commercial coal mining. Dekho, this ends the government monopoly and brings in global technology and efficiency. A key technical reform is the shift in the payment mechanism. Earlier, we used a fixed rupee per ton regime, which was static and did not reflect market booms. The new revenue sharing model is dynamic. Bidders offer a percentage of their revenue to the government. Simple hai, if coal prices rise, the government share rises automatically. This is anchored by the National Coal Index or NCI, a weighted index that tracks the market price of coal. The NCI serves as the benchmark for taxation and auction floors, ensuring the system is responsive to market realities rather than outdated notified prices. Furthermore, we must address the sustainability paradox of coal through coal gasification, illustrated in the coal gasification cycle. Burning coal directly releases particulate matter and sulfur dioxide. However, gasification involves chemically breaking down coal using heat and pressure in a gasifier unit to produce syngas or synthetic gas, which is a mixture of carbon monoxide CO and hydrogen H2. Why is syngas valuable? Socho zara. As the flowchart shows, syngas can be converted into urea for fertilizers, reducing our gas import bill, or used in power generation with lower emissions. To incentivize this technology, the government offers a 50% rebate on the revenue share for coal used in gasification. This policy tool actively encourages the industry to pivot from burning coal to chemically converting coal, bridging the gap between fossil fuel dependence and cleaner industrial processes. As terrestrial deposits deplete and land acquisition becomes fraught with social conflict, the mining frontier is shifting towards the oceans. The Offshore Areas Mineral Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2023 is the legal framework designed to govern this blue economy. We must first understand the jurisdiction by looking at the marine zones diagram. The Act regulates mining in the territorial waters, 12 nautical miles from the baseline, the continental shelf, and the exclusive economic zone or EEZ, extending up to 200 nautical miles. The resources here are vast but legally complex. Dekho, the 2023 amendment mirrors the onshore MMDR reforms by mandating that operating rights be granted strictly through competitive bidding or auction, replacing the opaque administrative grants of the past. A crucial aspect of this act is the tenure stability. Offshore mining projects are capital intensive and high risk. To make them viable, the Act provides a fixed production lease of 50 years. This long horizon allows companies to recover their massive investments in deep sea technology. However, the government retains strategic control by reserving atomic minerals found in monazite sands like thorium solely for PSUs, safeguarding national security interests against private proliferation. बिल्कुल ठीक. Parallel to the legal framework is the scientific endeavor known as the Deep Ocean Mission, spearheaded by the Ministry of Earth Sciences or MOES. The central visual, Deep Ocean Mission components highlights key technologies like Matsya 6000, a manned submersible capable of diving 6,000 meters deep. The primary target here is polymetallic nodules or PMN. Imagine potato-sized lumps on the seabed containing manganese, nickel, copper and cobalt. These are critical for the battery industry. India has secured a contract with the International Seabed Authority or ISA for exploration in the Central Indian Ocean Basin or CIOB. Accessing these nodules requires navigating extreme pressure and darkness, which is why the development of indigenous deep-sea mining technology is not just scientific curiosity but a strategic economic necessity to secure future supply chains independent of terrestrial geopolitics.
While we discuss policies and auctions, the ground reality of mining often involves significant governance challenges, specifically illegal mining. We must critically analyze the forms this takes. One prevalent method is rat hole mining, common in Meghalaya. As the name suggests, it involves digging narrow, unscientific tunnels that are barely large enough for a human to crawl through. This is extremely hazardous and ecologically damaging, leading to bans by the National Green Tribunal. However, illegal mining also manifests as regulatory failure, where legal miners extract far beyond their permitted lease areas. To combat this, the state employs the Mining Surveillance System, or MSS, visualized in the slide. MSS utilizes satellite imagery overlaid with lease coordinates. Listen closely. If current mining activity captured by satellite extends beyond the green legal area boundary, the system automatically triggers an alert to the district mining officer. This technological intervention removes human discretion and improves detection speed. On the flip side, we have the Framework for Sustainability and Compliance. A miner needs a social license to operate, which comes from community trust and environmental stewardship. The 5-star rating system is a policy tool to gamify compliance. As shown in the pyramid diagram, mines are rated from 1 to 5 stars based on the Sustainable Development Framework, or SDF. This assessment covers technical parameters, ecological balance, and social welfare. A 5-star rating is not just a badge, it often comes with faster clearance processing, creating a positive feedback loop for compliance. Deepening this, we have the Environmental Impact Assessment, or EIA, which is mandatory before operations begin. It categorizes projects into Category A, central-level clearance for large mines, and Category B, state-level. This ensures that the hydrological and ecological costs are calculated before the first shovel hits the ground. Coupled with this is the compensatory afforestation, or CAMPA mechanism, where miners pay to replace the forest cover they destroy. The integration of MSS for surveillance and the star rating for incentives creates a comprehensive governance architecture using both the stick of technology and the carrot of recognition to enforce the rule of law.
In the final analysis, we turn to the elements that will define the future industrial era: rare earth elements or REEs and lithium. These are often termed the vitamins of modern industry because small quantities are essential for high-tech applications. REEs, a group of 17 elements, are critical for permanent magnets used in wind turbines and missile guidance systems. In the Indian context, we possess the fifth largest reserves, primarily found in monazite sands along the coastal states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Odisha visualized in the map. However, a historical bottleneck existed. Monazite also contains thorium, a nuclear fuel. Consequently, the entire sector was locked under the monopoly of IREL, Indian Rare Earths Limited, within the Department of Atomic Energy. Recent policy shifts are now attempting to separate the strategic thorium from the commercial REEs to encourage downstream processing, as we currently lack the refining technology to turn these sands into usable magnets. Simultaneously, we are witnessing a white gold rush for lithium. The discovery of inferred resources in Risi, J&K, and Mandya, Karnataka has been a game changer. But geology alone is not enough. Policy must facilitate extraction. A critical legal amendment in 2023 moved lithium from the atomic minerals list to the critical minerals list. समझ आया? Why is this classification shift vital? Dekho, as an atomic mineral, it was a state secret reserved for the government. By reclassifying it as critical, the government has opened it up for private sector auctioning, inviting the capital and technology needed for extraction. The lithium value chain visual at the bottom creates a linear narrative from the mine to the electric vehicle. Extraction is just the first step, G3, G2 level. The ore must be refined into lithium carbonate or hydroxide, then manufactured into cathodes, assembled into cells, and finally placed in EVs. To catalyze this entire chain, the government introduced the PLI scheme, or Production Linked Incentive for Advanced Chemistry Cell, or ACC battery storage. This financial fiscal stimulus is designed to localize the value chain, ensuring that India does not just export raw lithium ore and import expensive batteries, but captures the value addition domestically, completing the loop of strategic autonomy in the energy transition.